Welcome to Drive Through on US Modernist Radio. Between our regular podcasts, Drive Through has you meet interesting people, hear about great houses, and discover the rich history of modernist architecture, all in about 10 minutes, with your host, the man Dwell magazine called the Lorax of Modern Houses, George Smart.
Hi, I'm George Smart, and I have been kicked out of my tiny dressing room on the second floor of the Asolo Theater. And I'm now literally outside the bathrooms on the lower floor. And I'm talking with Christopher Wilson with the Sarasota Architecture Foundation board, who is putting on this great Sarasota Mod weekend. Welcome, Christopher.
Nice to be here.
So this is the second or third year of the conference?
Second.
Second year.
Second annual.
And it's going to be a yearly thing.
We hope so, yes. We want it to eventually become a week-long event, but for now, last year and this year, we've just done a weekend. 3 days.
3 days.
Mm-hmm.
This year's feature was Paul Rudolph.
Yes.
And will future years be about Rudolph, or are you going to branch out to cover different areas?
Yes, we're going to branch out, but we will probably, each year we'll have a different focus. Possibly, well, I don't want to give anything away, but possibly another architect, or maybe even something like focusing on the patrons who allowed all of these buildings to be built, who paid for them.
Paul Rudolph was largely unknown to the American public, even after his successful architecture down here, until he burst on the scene after moving to Yale and then later into New York with his major public buildings. What is Rudolph's legacy here in Southwest Florida?
Well, Paul Rudolph, so he graduated from Alabama Polytechnic Institute, which later became Auburn, and he came down summer of 1941 to work with Ralph Twitchell, who had been here for a while. He was 28 years older than Paul Rudolph. And then, so he spent a summer kind of interning, and then went to Harvard, studied under Walter Gropius, interrupted, he had some military service in World War II, but when he was finished at Harvard, he came back down. He I guess, enjoyed the atmosphere down here so well. He came back down and actually became an associate with Ralph Twitchell, and then later a full partner. So they had a partnership probably between 49 and 51, I believe, 1951. And so they were responsible for bringing modern architecture to Florida, but what we like to talk about is that they adapted it to the Florida climate, because we, for example, in January and February, we can sit outside and have breakfast, and it's quite nice.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, so, large overhangs. So we don't like the sun down here in Florida, so we have a large overhang to provide shade. We have operable windows that can get the breeze in, natural ventilation, and also the overhangs in our rainy season provide dry areas that you can still use outside.
That seems to be one of the parallels between Palm Springs and here and Hawaii, are these cool breezes that allow the growth of modernist design in those areas.
Yes. What happens is the actual, interior space doubles. So you have, it's a house of, let's say, 1,000 square feet, but there's also 1,000 square feet of accommodation outside and they just seamlessly blend together. It's quite nice. You can roll out of bed in the morning and have a swim in your swimming pool, and it's the Florida life.
Outside of architectural circles, when did Sarasota really become known for its architecture down here?
Well, Sarasota has, ever since the 20s, when John Ringling of the Ringling Brothers Circus fame started to bring the circus down in the winters, Sarasota was an arts town. It became an arts town, and it attracted painters, illustrators, authors, just creative people who were interested in the arts. And so we like to tell the story about the reason why Sarasota School of Architecture was able to happen was because of these clients, these people who were interested in the new modern architecture that was coming out of Europe and coming to the United States. Sarasota today, so it's in the city, it's only a city of 50,000 people, but we have a orchestra, ballet, opera. We have lots and lots of theaters. We have a world-class art museum, the Ringling Museum. We also have world-class art school, art college, the Ringling College of Art and Design. So for the size of it, it's known for the arts. And We have Sarasota Film Festival. There's something called the Season of Sculpture, which is a sculptural kind of event every other year. And we're hoping the SAF, the Sarasota Architecture Foundation, is hoping that Sarasota Mod will then get in on that calendar of events every year.
This year you had, about 100, 150 people come down?
Oh, more than that.
More than that?
Yeah. I think it's about 200.
Oh, 200 this year. Really growing.
Yes. Growing every year, and not only from people from, the local area, not only from Florida, but from Texas and California and Michigan and Chicago and New York and all, we like to call them design tourists.
The SAF was involved in the recreation of the Walker Guest House.
Correct.
Paul Rudolph's wonderful prototype design for living on Sanibel Island a few hours from here. How did that recreation project come about?
So we have people who come to town not during Sarasota Mod, and they call us up and they say, when's the tour and what can I see? And the problem is that all of these houses are private and they're not really open to the public. During Sarasota Mod, we agree with some of the homeowners to open up. But if you come here outside of Sarasota Mod, it's just a private house. So we started to think about, there were a lot of different ideas. Maybe we'd build something new that people could see, but then it wasn't, it wasn't vintage. It wasn't from the 50s and 60s. And then we started thinking about recreating something. And the Walker Guest House on Sanibel is so simple. It's just wood and glass and screen. And also, it's a perfect example of the Sarasota School. For those people who don't know, it has these flaps on the building. It's the whole wall is a flap which opens and closes, and accordingly, if you want sun, you have the flap up. If you don't want sun, you put it down. If you want a breeze, you can put the flap 45 degrees. So the Walker Guest House was a very good example of Sarasota School architecture, and also easy to replicate. And we had the idea to do that. So we've replicated it on the grounds of the Ringling Museum, which are free, by the way. You don't need to pay to get onto the grounds of the museum, and you can go into it. So it's a exhibit, but you can go in and you can sit down on the furniture, and you can experience being in a Sarasota School house.
How long will the Walker Guest House replica be here, and where it's heading to next?
It'll be at the Ringling Museum for 1 year, and we don't know where it's going to go next. We have made it so that it comes apart in pieces, and there's special pallets that have been made by Joe King and his crew, and it is able to go somewhere else. We have been so focused on getting the thing built that we haven't confirmed where it's going to go next. We're working on it. One kind of obvious place, although we haven't really talked with them seriously about it, would be the Walker Arts Center in Minneapolis. It's the same family. Same family. It's not the person who commissioned the Walker Guest House, but it's the same family. So we're hoping they're going to be interested in it. The Building Museum in Washington is a good place also, because they have a large interior space that they could go into, and it's the Building Museum after all. We have some dreams of taking it overseas, so we'll see if that happens. Whoever wants it will have to pay for its moving and installation, everything, just like any other exhibition.
Right, sure. And that's no small feat.
It's no small feat.
How long does it take to put together and take apart?
About 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks to put together.
Okay.
And then 3 weeks to take apart.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly modular. There's some finesse to it.
It comes apart. It's all pieces, and all the pieces are numbered.
Okay.
So in that way, it's modular.
Well, Christopher, thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate your time today.
My pleasure. We'll see you at Sarasota Mod.
Visit us on the web at USModernistRadio.org for links about people and buildings mentioned today. Our theme song is performed by Robinson Earl. US Modernist Radio and Drive-Thru is a production of North Carolina Modernist Houses, a nonprofit educational archive for the documentation, preservation, and promotion of residential design. I'm Tom Guild. Thanks for listening to Drive-Thru from US Modernist Radio.